guys, this is the Terminator X. This is kind of going to be an unboxing video, but I already unboxed it. So what I wanted to do was show everybody what this thing's all about. This is the ECU, and this is substantially smaller than a Dominator or an HP. It is 7 inches bolt hole wide and 2 inches tall. So this will actually tuck in, you know, in a lot of these cars really well. The Terminator X comes in 2 different configurations. Both of the ones that I have here are the standard Terminator X, but the X Max has the additional 2 plugs for transmission control and drive-by-wire. So I've got one set up on the bench over there that I'm going to show you. We're going to go through the wizard and show you how you set one up, but I wanted to give you an overview of what all comes in the kit because there's been a lot of questions. So first, ECU, and on the ECU you've got a map sensor. There's a small lead right here for a map sensor. It comes with a couple adapters. I'll show you over there. You've got your 3.5-inch screen for all of your setup and wizard. You've got your Bosch O2 sensor, and then it also comes with an O2 sensor adapter. So if you're familiar with Holley, if you've installed them before, this is the standard connector for your O2 sensor. They make an adapter for it so you can run this style Bosch O2 sensor. They give you a weld bone, and they give you a little mount, you know, some stickies in here to stick this on the dash. Something cool that I didn't know, it comes with an input-output harness, so you don't have to buy an additional input-output harness, but we'll get into that in a minute. Main, power, and ground. So this, if you've done Holley before, this looks awfully familiar. It's got the same connector, the MetroPack 280 series connector here, and this just goes straight to your battery, power and ground. And then depending upon your kit that you order, it comes with an injector harness, which will look awfully familiar if you're used to Holley stuff, because this is the exact same injector harnesses that they use in their other Terminator kits, the standard Terminator kit, not the X, or if you buy them individually. And then you've got a main harness. So the main harness comes dependent upon which kit you buy. So I have 2 different kits here, one for a 24X and one for a 58X LS engine. So a couple of things that people have asked me is, will this interchange with an HP or a Dominator down the road? And it does. So this is a unterminated harness for, you know, a Dominator or an HP. They're the same plugs, same connectors, same harness. It's actually pretty nice. They thought about this. If you guys ever outgrow this Terminator X and want to go to a Dominator, you literally just unplug the Terminator X and plug the Dominator in, do some transfer for the software, and you're good to go. So 2 things that some people with some older Holley harnesses are not familiar with. If you have a newer one, you are familiar with it. But the first thing is this right here. So this is a power tap harness. So what it is this is a plug where you can grab 12 volt, 5 volt, sensor ground, and chassis ground right off of the main harness. So instead of having to cut into this main harness and splice into it, they give you a connector. And the other thing that they updated about a year ago with all their harnesses, their CAN bus plug, which is what you'll use to plug your screen into, is already terminated for power and ground. So if you've got an older Holley harness, you're probably used to seeing this connector for CAN, and you would have to use a little adapter to give it power and ground. Now it's all terminated right here in the harness. Makes life a lot easier. So that input-output harness we were talking about, typically before when you bought an HP or a Dominator, you would have to buy an input-output harness. So one thing about this is it is shorter than the one that you would buy, but just plan accordingly. And you've got your loose wires that you'll have to hook up. You know, A10 or the red with white stripe is your switched power, chassis ground. Different than these. These go to the battery, straight to the battery. So don't go to the cutoff switch. goes straight to the battery, power and ground. And then you've got all of your injector plug. So your injector harness will plug in right here. The other cool thing about this Terminator X product is that all of this stuff interchanges. So if you decide that you want to change something down the road, it's simple. All you have to do is literally unplug one and plug another one in. Everything's labeled. I gotta say, they actually did a better job with labeling now. The labels on all their harnesses are actually not the little tags hanging off that are probably gonna fall off. They actually did a lot better of a job labeling their harnesses. And if you notice, this right here, this has been a pretty common question. What about a map sensor? Well, this is already terminated into your harness. So just like the HP and the Dominator, it is not using an additional input and output. This map sensor, you can wire in your 3-bar, 2.5 bar, 5 bar, whatever you want into this, and it does not use a additional input. So you've got your onboard map sensor here, but you've also got the ability to run an external map sensor. You've got your wideband connector and for this setup right here, crank plug. It's shielded for heat. And then you've got all of the rest of your connectors like idle air control, oil pressure, fuel pressure, and whatnot. So this is, I'm going to show you over here on the bench, one of these all plugged up, but so far, for $1,000, it's kind of hard to believe that you get all of this. It's, I mean, in reality, I don't know. I mean, I understand the demographic that they were going after, but this really goes into a lot bigger of a demographic than I feel like they were looking into. I will be doing some videos on software once it's released. So right now I do not have software, but for now I'm overly impressed with, you know, everything that you get. If you buy this harness separate, this is like a $350 harness, and you've got a $100 injector harness. You've got a screen, you've got a wideband, you've got a wideband adapter, you've got a power harness, which is 60 bucks. So all this stuff adds up. It's pretty impressive that they were able to put together a package for $1,000, and you know, with new software and the whole 9 yards. And then the other question I see a lot of is about this. If you can tune this thing from a laptop. Yes, you can. So this is your screen that they give you, and it's got a startup wizard in it, okay? And on the side of the screen, there's an SD card slot. If you decide that you don't want to use the screen and you just want to tune off of a laptop, or you want to hook up a 7-inch or a 12-inch dash to this, you can either pick up one of the splitters that they sell for this Mizzou connector, or just plug right into this, and now you've got a USB lead hanging off the end of it, so you can tune with your laptop. You can also pull all your data logging through the laptop or off the SD card. So with that said, we're going to go over to the bench. I'm going to show you kind of what the wizard's all about. So this is the other kit that I got. This is set up just quick. I just slapped it together. This is your heavy power and ground, and then this is your switched 12 volt, and this is a chassis ground. So I just did this for demonstration purposes. I've made plenty of other videos on how to wire these things up, and in all reality, you can get the car up and running with about five connections. So your other loose wires right here, you've got power to supply. You have to supply power to this. This green wire will hit a relay for a fuel pump, and then you've got your loose power and ground. So you also have, because the LS is run coil packs, you've got a ground for the coil pack that has to go to the cylinder head, but it's actually labeled. So you guys that are asking, hey, where does this go? It goes to the cylinder head. It's telling you it's got to go to the cylinder head. So overall, again, like I just said, I'm rather impressed with everything you get for the cost. I really don't see any downsides to it. The onboard map sensor, they give you 3 little adapters, okay? So this is the plug that's on the map sensor, and they give you 3 little adapters that go to hose barb, so in 3 different sizes. So 1/8, 1/4, and 3/8. And then again, of course, you've got that map sensor that's already terminated in your harness as well. So I'm gonna fire this thing up. So this right now, this battery's turned off. So we're gonna simulate using this button on top of the battery as, you know, your key switch. So let's see what happens. So it starts to boot. And it tells us that we need to perform a TPS auto set. So we're not gonna do that right now because we don't have a TPS hooked up. But it tells you where to get it too. So under Wizards and then TPS auto set. So we're gonna hit OK. So there's tuning, we can monitor, advanced features, logging, file, but we're gonna go into Wizard. So hit Wizard. Hopefully you can see that pretty good. And we're gonna go to GCF, which is the for a global folder. So it's gonna ask us MPFI, so that's multi-port fuel injection, right? So it's an injector in each hole. Let's click next. Number of cylinders, 8. Firing order, that's your LS firing order. And then it's gonna ask us engine displacement. So we're in America, so we're gonna be using cubic inches and not liters. So hit next. And we'll do a 370-inch LS, so 6.0. Hit next. So here's target idle speed. They've really made this simple for people that don't know much about fuel injection. They've really bridged this very well. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick a target engine idle speed, and always remember that this idle speed is based off of a hot engine, not a cold engine. So once it's warmed up over 150, 160 degrees, this is the target engine idle speed. Hit next. So now it's going to ask you about camshaft, okay? So if you don't know your camshaft, well, you should probably know your camshaft, but if it's a stock camshaft, it's going to be below 235 degrees of duration. They're all on their camshaft box, or it's all on the cam spec card for duration. So for this, we'll look at this as a like a stock style camshaft. Hit next, and we're going to configure this for either 24 or 58 tooth LS. So we're going to do 24, and then it's going to ask us which injectors do we have. So if we've got a Holley injector, hit next, and it gives you a list of injectors on a drop down. So now, something I've been seeing a bunch of questions about is, well, how big of an injector will this support? It'll support whatever you want as long as it's high impedance, okay? So it doesn't do any low impedance injectors. So if you were, whoops, we're gonna start over. Next, 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 next. Sorry, I shouldn't have hit that button, but look at that, I screwed up and it taught you something. 370, 900. Sorry about that. You can go to Other. And here you've got Fuel Injector Clinic, a couple of bigger injectors, or you can key in Custom. So we'll click the 2150, hit Next. It's going to ask us a power adder. So if it's an all-motor car, we'd have none. If it's a turbo car, you know, you obviously click turbo. So hit Next. And then it's going to ask us which map sensor do we have. So you can configure a custom map sensor, but for now we'll just use this. And this is pretty slick for guys that are new to EFI and just trying to get started. This is pretty slick. So if you've got an idea of what type of ignition timing you want at wide open throttle, you should always verify timing, you know, with the timing light once it's running. But if you verify, or once you've verified your timing and you feel as if, say, 27 degrees is the number that you want to go after, then literally just slide it over until you hit 27 degrees. So this is wide open throttle ignition timing at 0 PSI. This is before we make any boost. Hit Next, and then it asks us what kind of timing retard do we want per pound of boost. So it gives us examples. So 7 psi, 14, 21. So if we remove 1 degree of timing per pound of boost, at 7 psi, we should be at 20 degrees of timing. 14, we should be at 30 degrees of timing. So we'll leave it there for this. Hit next. And now it's got a target air fuel ratio at 0 psi. So before we get into boost. So we can literally just grab this, slide it. And again, these are just examples. So we'll just go 13.3, hit next, and it gives you this, an AFR offset. So what this means is, it's how much more fuel enrichment do you want as boost increases in the engine. So let's say at 7 psi, we want to be 12.8, 14 psi, 12.3, 21 psi, 11.8. So again, if you really start racing these things, you should be reading spark plugs to tell you the whole story about timing and boost. But for a starting point, this is fantastic. It's simple. It literally takes 5 minutes to set this whole thing up. Hit next, and there we go. We've got our tune-up. So it's uploading. And please cycle the ignition to complete the operation, so we'll do that. And we would be ready to start. So once we did a TPS auto set, once you do a TPS auto set, you follow the instructions, but basically you'd hit start and slowly press the pedal to the floor, then slowly release it, do it 2 times. If we had a TPS hooked up, it would say, hey, this worked, but because we don't, hey, it didn't work. So, thing up. I am pretty excited about putting one of these in a car. I'm probably gonna have to find somebody semi-local so that we can do some, live tuning, getting the thing running, and starting playing with it. So hopefully this answered a lot of your questions. Feel free to ask all the questions you have. Again, I think Holley knocked it out of the park on this. This thing's a game changer. Once I saw it get released, I knew it would be, but now that I've actually got it in my hands, I'm actually really, really impressed. So that's all I got, guys. Have a good one.